This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you courtesy of Michelob Ultra Beer.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Welcome, everyone, to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the radio show designed to bring you trends influencing the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around you, all for the benefit of Alabama business. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. Glad you're on for the ride, and I want to reach out to the listeners in our new market still, the WBHP in Huntsville, WERC in Birmingham, and WACV, the voice of Montgomery in, obviously, Montgomery. Hope the show is catching on in your markets. We're in our 5th year here in Mobile and love what we do, talking about the trends that are shaping business with the hopes that something our guests say makes you a little bit better at whatever it is that you do. Some updates on some things on the calendar that I've been mentioning, I now can speak more specifically about. The succession planning workshop that I know that others have asked about, I'll give you the date. Now is going to be Thursday, May 26th here in Mobile. I know that may not help the Huntsville, Montgomery, and Birmingham folks, but for the Mobilians listening, Thursday, May 26th, it'll be in the afternoon. If you want detail on that workshop, reach out to me directly, Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. I'll give you the info. It'll be at the Community Foundation of South Alabama. We'll give you that street number. Beautiful facility, by the way. Beautiful meeting facilities available if you're interested in a meeting. I encourage you to take a look at that place. On the agenda, the gentleman from Sandifer Wealth Management talking about succession and how to make the transition how to utilize any of the funds gained during the transition to pad your retirement, to influence your retirement, how to set up the sell of your business. Again, Mark Salyers and Jamie Sandifer of Sandifer Wealth Management, that will be their part of the agenda. The second part of that agenda will be Rick Miller. He's with Pro 356 Consulting. He works with those that are leaving the business as well as those that are stepping up, the successors and the successees, or however it's mentioned. Both the Sandifer team and Rick Miller will be offering case studies on things that they've worked with. Again, the date, May 26th in Mobile. If you're interested, email me directly, cam@cammarston.com. I always want to give book update teases. I had thought by this time I'd be able to offer chapters to those that are interested. The book's called What Works. It's the top 10 ideas from the first 200 episodes. It's full of case studies from guests that we've had on things that they've done that have worked very well. And I got word last night that the book is still probably 40 days out. I thought it was closer. You can hear my anticipation. I'm so ready for this to begin, but it's still 40 days out. I'll keep you posted on it. It's beautiful. We're working in the book design now. I'm being asked to choose between fonts and font sizes and things of this nature. When was the last time you opened a book and noticed the font? For me, it's been forever, yet I'm deep in the weeds on making these selections for my own book. It's proving to be a little bit more detail-oriented than I remember. I've got 4 books behind me, and this process, I now kind of have memories of making these decisions in the past and wondering how important they are and getting bogged down in the weeds. I'm trying to move through them quickly in order to get the book out to the public. Okay, let's get into the show today. Dirk Lindsey is the CEO of Coastal Growers based in Atmore, Alabama. They're a peanut shelling facility. Their grand opening wasn't long ago, and I'm talking about months. However, the machines have been on in there for a while. There are currently 197 farmers who are delivering their peanuts there to be shelled. All those farmers are owners in the operation. Dirk's going to talk about this concept, why it was born, and what it's doing for the south part of the state of Alabama. The people are delivering peanuts from as far as Georgia and Mississippi to this shelling facility. It's an idea whose time has come. We'll have him as soon as we get back from break. Prior to break, let's talk about our friends at Sandifer Wealth. Today, about 1 out of every 4 65-year-olds will live past the age of 90. Therefore, it's important to work with a professional to develop a plan for you or your loved one for long-term care. Call the folks at Sandifer Wealth Management. You can find them online, Sandifer Wealth Management. They're on Old Shell Road here in Mobile. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culver House College of Business at the University of Alabama. We'll be right back.
I'm Paul Lewis, General Manager for Lewis Construction. Many of our commercial buildings you drive by daily on both sides of the bay are the fruits of our client relationship since our beginning in the early 80s. It is our mission to bring value to our clients, from retrofits to ground-up construction and everything in between. We have more advocates than any of our competitors who have been in business twice as long. Same with repeat business, same with referrals. Find us online at roylewisconstruction.com and let's talk about your next commercial project.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culver House College of Business, based at the University of Alabama. In the studio today with Dirk Lindsey. Dirk Lindsey is the president and CEO of Coastal Growers, LLC in Atmore, Alabama. I've heard his name for, this facility for about 18 months. And I was just introduced to Dirk a couple of weeks ago by the banker that helped facilitate this facility in Atmore. We're going to talk about the facility. We're going to talk about the business. We're going to talk about what it means for Alabama. And we're going to meet this man. Dirk, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Your resume shows that you have background in Jonesboro, Arkansas, Fairhope, Alabama. I know you currently live in Daphne, Alabama, but you also have this stint in South Africa as well, Headland, Alabama, Seagraves, Texas. You've moved all around, and you told me a moment ago it's all been peanut related. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got into this business before we talk about this wonderful facility in Atmore.
Yeah, well, I grew up in a small peanut community in Texas, at De Leon, Texas, and went to Tarleton State University, which is about 20 miles from there. Been around agriculture my entire life, but was a business major. And in the early 90s, the plan was whenever I got out of college, I was going to be a banker or a stockbroker, and that was what I studied for. And when I got out of college, there wasn't any jobs, and so the local peanut company called, and they basically said, we need somebody for about 3 months. We know that you're going to do something else with your life, but we need somebody for 3 months. We don't pay much. The work is hard, but you can get all the hours you want. And I said, well, sign me up. And here 32 years later, here I am.
Yeah.
So
maybe that peanut company knew what they were really saying. Once he gets here, we're never going to let him go.
Yeah.
What attracts you to the peanut business? I mean, with the varied background that you have, the international travel, you keep going back to peanuts. Why peanuts?
It gets in your blood. I mean, it's a great industry. It's plant-based protein. It's life sustaining. It's because people that it is producing food that helps people, and it's just a great industry that I don't know. I mean, a lot of people that get into the peanut business, we call it in the industry lifetime peanut people.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of us in it, and so a lot of us have done it our entire lives, and it's just something that gets in your blood, and it's a great industry to work in.
Are they finding new uses for peanuts these days? Like there was somebody in the Alabama history that found wonderful uses for peanuts that I should know his name, and my
George Washington Carver.
George Washington Carver, my high school Alabama history teacher, is going to be angry with me for not being able to know that. But are they still finding new uses for peanuts in your experience?
What they're finding is I don't know if it's necessarily new uses, but they're finding more nutritional value in peanuts, and the peanuts is a better food than a lot of people thought. It does a lot of things health wise. it's heart healthy. There are some things that everybody hears peanuts and they think about the allergy, that the peanut allergy, and there's the peanut allergy. It's not a lot of people have a peanut allergy, but the ones that do, it's real severe.
Yeah.
So it's something that the industry is working really hard to find a cure for, or a way that people can enjoy peanuts and not have a reaction to it. So that's in the industry, peanuts are plant based. And it's protein and it's affordable. And so those are things that are driving our industry right now. The consumption in the U.S. is going up, which is a good thing. It's so I wouldn't necessarily say there's new uses, but what there are, they're finding more nutritional value, and people are becoming more aware of the peanut and what it can do for people. So.
I know that the southern part of the United States, particularly here in Alabama, Baldwin County, seems to be a great hotbed for peanut growth, but your resume also includes time spent in South Africa. Were they learning to grow peanuts in South Africa? Invited you there? Were they already doing it? Tell me about that time.
South Africa's been growing peanuts for a long time, and per capita, they're number 2 or number 3 of consumption of peanut butter in the world.
Oh yeah.
And so the company that I worked for before Coastal Growers sent me over there. We had a peanut plant and a pecan plant when I went over there, and while I was there, we bought 2 other peanut plants. So we had 3 peanut plants and a pecan plant that I was helping manage. But South Africa, the continent of Africa, grows a lot of peanuts. What most people don't understand, and when they think about peanuts in the U.S., we grow about 3 million tons a year.
3 million tons a year. I'm going to write that down.
Worldwide, there's 40 plus million tons produced.
Wow!
So we're less than 10% of the world market, and Africa probably, with all the countries there, probably grows 3 or 4 million tons. China grows about 18 million tons.
No kidding.
And a lot of people don't know that, but the peanuts are big throughout the world.
Yeah.
Now, peanut butter, we eat more peanut butter than anybody in North America, and especially in the United States. But it's becoming more and more sought after, and more people are eating it throughout the world. But a lot of peanut production is used for oil, for cooking oil.
Right. I'm told that that's a great cooking oil for the fried fish. It was somebody that was telling me that not long ago. Let's talk about Coastal Growers. So it's a facility in Atmore, Alabama. You're pulling in. Well, listen to me trying to tell you about your business. Tell me about Coastal Growers.
Coastal Growers is a grower-owned peanut shelling grower-owned LLC peanut shelling facility. And we're owned by, and this number keeps growing. And so as of today, I believe it's 197 farm families own Coastal Growers. And it's a patronage-based grower-owned LLC, which means that the growers have to produce peanuts. They buy in on the shares. The shares they buy in are based on the tons that they produce. They have to produce the peanuts in order to get the dividends or the profits off of that. Mm-hmm. So we have a built-in supply, but it is owned by the growers, and it allows these growers to vertically integrate and get more money for their peanuts while investing in a company. And so they're gaining equity in Coastal Growers, but they're also getting more money for their peanuts year in and year out, because instead of the profits going to somewhere far off shareholders with another company or something, the money comes back to them, and it comes back to the communities that they live in. So not only are they able to get more money for their peanuts, but they get all that money back, and it helps the communities that they live in as well.
So the facility, Coastal Growers facility, is how old now?
We broke ground on the facility in October of 2020. Mm-hmm. We had the ribbon cutting last month, and we've actually been in production for about 2 months. We started producing commercial lots the first of this year, and so we're a really young company. This time last year there was 1 employee, and it was me, and now we have a little over 70.
70.
Yeah, so we're from the ground up. We're able to. We're building this company and getting people involved, and the facility out there was an $87 million project that these growers put their own money in. We were also able to get new market tax credits involved. Yeah. The USDA gave a $40 million loan guarantee. So there was a lot of moving parts, and the bankers that were involved in this were incredible to make this happen. But it's really good for the community of Atmore, and it's good for our growers that own it.
So let's assume that 5 years ago, I'm a peanut grower somewhere around Atmore. Where was I selling my peanuts prior to that? 5 years ago.
Most of the peanut, there's a few buying points around in Southwest Alabama, but so most of them were going either to Southeast Alabama to be shelled or to Georgia to be shelled. Mm-hmm. So they would sell them here, but then they'd have to truck them 200 to 300, 400 miles to have them processed. Yeah. And now the processing facilities right here in Southwest Alabama.
A short drive, and considering fuel prices as we're talking, that's got to be a great relief for them.
Yeah, and the other thing is, as close as we are to Mobile, the Port of Mobile is we're 45 minutes from one of the biggest ports in the United States, and so it's able to export all over the world. So it gives us an advantage too, being that close to the Port of Mobile.
So you've got 197 farmers now that are members or owners
they own
of the facility, which means you have 197 peanut growers who are bringing their materials to you, their peanuts to you during the harvest season. That's correct?
That's correct.
How big are these? How big is your largest peanut farmer? In other words, how many acres is he or she farming?
Probably the biggest one that I know of is farming 5,500 acres of peanuts.
Dang, that sounds like a lot to me.
Yeah, it's a big grower.
Yeah, and he's bringing these things. And when harvest season is in the spring, I assume?
No, harvest is in the fall. Planning's in the spring.
Planning's in the spring, of course. Harvest's in the fall. I got my calendars mixed up there. Yeah, interesting. Well, we need to go to break here. I want to talk a little bit about, when we come back from break, who these farmers are, and more importantly, where this idea came from. If these farmers came to you or came to the bank, I suspect they did, and said, hey, we need a shelling facility here. We need to put something here. Where the idea originated to create these things, and when it was created, somebody lost some business. Some shelling facility lost some business, and they're probably upset, maybe angry at you guys for creating the new state-of-the-art thing just down the road from your 5,500-acre peanut guy. Make sense?
It does.
Let's talk about that when we come back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm in the studio with Dirk Lindsey. He's the president and CEO of Coastal Growers in Atmore, Alabama, a state-of-the-art peanut shelling facility that I think all of us across the state would be very proud of. We'll be right back after this break. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. This is Cam Marston, and I'm with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, if a homeowner thinks they have termites, do you offer inspections? What about someone buying a new home? Can you come in and take a look and see if there are termites in their new home?
Yeah, basically what we would do on a home above and beyond anyone else is we actually do a thorough inspection. But above that, we will use infrared imaging that will allow us to see problems in the wall, and at times can tell us if there's anything going on.
That's fantastic, Cajun Mike. How can people find you?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com. Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. I'm in the studio with Dirk Lindsey. He's the president, CEO of Coastal Growers. It's a facility in Atmore, Alabama that shells peanuts, and I want to talk to you more about that, Dirk. But it's 18 months old. It's brand new. There's no moss on anything. There's no dirt on the floor yet, just at this point here. It's brand new, and it sounds like something we should all be very proud of. Dirk, prior to the break, we were talking a little bit about where this idea came from. Who saw the need for this facility in Atmore?
Well, there was four organizers in the company, or three individuals in a family got together and started talking about this years ago. And it's Joe Parker from Summerdale, Alabama, the Driscoll family here in Mobile County, and then Brad Smith out of Dothan and Paul Turner out of Dothan, Alabama. And they're the four organizers, had a vision of what could happen if everybody got together and came together and put a new shelling facility in this area. Our business model is modeled after, there's about 4 other grower-owned LLCs in the country right now, and they're all doing well. And so the business model's not new, but to this area it was new. Uh-huh. So those individuals in that family, they got together and started working on this. This was before I even got involved, and the stories that I hear about how much work they put into it and everything that they did, they kept believing in a dream, and now here we sit, and we've got a brand new $87 million facility that's processing peanuts, and as we speak today, we're already shipping peanuts to 11 countries on 3 continents, and then shipping peanuts all over the United States as well.
So it sounds like it may have been a long sell to get the idea going, but once it was going, it was meant to be.
Yes, yeah, and there's so many people that have been involved in this, and so many things that took place to make this happen. It's nearly like, and I believe in that God has His hands all over this thing, because the way this thing has happened, it's like a miracle nearly. And I think it's going to be a miracle to the farmers that own this, because this is going to be something that they're going to be able to get more money for their peanuts, be able to continue to farm prosperously, and then also maybe have their children come in and continue to farm. And that's what a lot of these, you talk to a lot of these people that have bought into the company, and they don't talk about for them. They say, I'm doing this for my kids, because farming's getting so hard in the United States, and it's really hard to make a profit. But these guys that have been doing this all their lives, and the generations before them, they want it to continue. Mm-hmm. And this is a way that they see that they can do that and have their children come in and continue to farm. Yeah.
So if there are 197 farmers / owners of this thing, are there 200 more that need to be members that are kind of on the fence about this?
I do think I think there are more, and we have plans to grow. Right now we have owners in 4 states, in the Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, and of course the biggest majority being Alabama. And so there's a lot of interest in this, and we continue to grow. This time last year, we've probably had a little over 100 members, and we've doubled since then. Yeah. So we're continuing to let people buy in. They have to be a peanut farmer, of course. They have to be a bona fide peanut farmer in the areas that we're doing business. But we're continuing to have people buy in and join the company.
So the shelling facility, they bring in their raw peanuts out of the ground. Are they rinsed? Are they cleaned? What status are the peanuts in when you receive them?
Well, peanuts. The way peanuts are harvested as they're dug and then they're combined. And the combining process basically takes the peanut, the pod, off the vine and gets most of the vine out, most of the foreign material out. And then we call it farmer stock peanuts. Mm-hmm. And what we'll do at that point is put it in our shelling plant, and the plant has all kinds of equipment in it and processes that clean everything out. They shell it, take the shells off, goes in and sizes it, and then it goes through a sorting process that gets all the bad peanuts out, and then it does precision sizing after that, and then we package it in certain sizes that are USDA grades, and then send it to our customers.
Is this one of these things that I would be fascinated to know how few human hands touch these peanuts between the moment they come out of the ground and the moment they're shipped overseas?
Yes.
It's very little human contact on these things.
Very little human contact, but a lot of machines. They go through a lot of machines and a lot of processes, but there's really not that many human hands. Now, there's a lot of machinery that touches them, but not a lot of human hands.
So if they're harvested in the fall, is your busy season the fall to the spring as you're taking the inventory and processing it?
Well, the inventory comes in about 45 days. Uh-huh. And so the entire crop moves in about 45 days, and it takes us all year long to process it. So we're running that plant right now 24 hours, 5 days a week, and we'll do that all year long.
Are you at capacity?
No, we're not. No, at capacity would be 24/7, and we're not at capacity, but we have a 3 to 5 year plan to where we think we will be at capacity at some point.
How are you selling? Let's say there's a farmer in Georgia that's right on the line between his current peanut shelling facility and this one in Atmore, and you go to him and say, hey, we want you over here. Are you selling your facility to these farmers, or are they finding out about it?
We are. They're finding out about it. I mean, everybody in the industry knows who we are. We're the new guy. I mean, and there's a lot of positive things. Of course, you mentioned earlier about the competition, and we've taken some business away from some of our competitors, and they don't really like that. But I do think competition's healthy, and it's good for the industry. And so, everybody knows about us. We go talk to them, or they'll call us and have us go talk to them. We've got a prospectus that we let them have, and they read through it, and it shows our operating agreement, and the pro forma of what we think that the company's going to do in the next 5 to 10 years, and then we let them make that choice. And what I tell them is, I could give this to your accountant, give it to your lawyer. You make sure that y'all vetted everything really good, because we want everyone to know what they're getting into. It is a business. There is risk involved, but we feel like it's a really good business model, and we feel like it's going to do well, and all the numbers show that. And so we've had some people that say it's not for them, and I get that. And it's not for everybody, but then we have other people that look at it, and their accountant comes back and says, you need to do this. And so I do think that in agriculture today, anything that people can do, anything that these farmers can do to vertically integrate and to get at the end of the day, it's about making more money for their product. Mm-hmm. And this business model allows them to do that.
Yeah. Do you have experience in this type of ownership business in your past?
Well, yes. I worked for Golden Peanut Company for 28 years, and they're a traditional sheller, and that's where I learned the business. But then in 2019, I left Golden and went to Delta Peanut Company in Jonesboro, Arkansas, as their COO there, and it's the same business model.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and then a year and a half later, this group here, I knew them. I've been in the industry a long time. We're good friends with a lot of them, and knew them. And they called me and said, "Hey, we've got looks like this thing's about to happen. We want you to come here." And so. Here I am.
Yeah, no kidding. So they brought you in based on your experience in the industry and your experience with this type of system, this type of arrangement.
Well, and my experience with the growers in this area, because I knew a lot of the growers in my past job, and so I think that was part of it.
Is there you listed 4 families from the region that got involved to get this started. What are they getting out of it? Do they have ownership stake too?
They have a small ownership. The company's owned 94% by the peanut farmers, and then the organizers have a small percentage of it. But they put it all together. For years they worked on this, and they didn't get anything, didn't get paid anything, but did get some ownership.
So is it safe to say they did it for the right reasons? They did it because the regions needed this.
No question.
What has surprised you about this process so far?
Well, how well it's gone, how everything. I mean, it really has. It's amazing that we're where we are, and in the short time that we've started, and part of it just seems like this is meant to be, and it's just been really good to see this entire process from the ground up. The other thing that we're doing is we're putting a team together. We're putting really good people in the right places, and I feel like we've got a great team that in some cases we brought some people in that had industry experience. In other cases, we brought people in from other industries, and then in other cases we brought people in straight out of college. And we're trying to teach them and train them to do this for the rest of their lives. And right now, everybody's really happy, and it's just, I don't know, it's a really good experience to be doing this right now, and everything is going well.
Yeah, it sounds good. You have been a disruptor to the area's peanut shellers. We'll talk about when we come back from break what could disrupt you guys. What might be on the horizon? I know as I was reading the headlines today, the cost of fertilizer is just soaring right now, and what that may mean for you. Let's go to break. Give the advertisers a chance to speak. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We're in the studio with Dirk Lindsey, President, CEO, Coastal Growers in Atmore, Alabama, doing some wonderful things for our state. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama.
At Roy Lewis Construction, we're in the business of adding value. Whether it's working with you to meet your unique business needs or making investments in our community in lasting ways, providing unparalleled value and quality in every commercial construction project. When planning your next commercial project, reach out to Roy Lewis Construction. We'll pair you with a designer that best suits your project needs and work with that designer to balance the best architectural outcome with the best budget outcome. Find us online at roylewisconstruction.com, building legacies one relationship at a time.
Back in the studio today with Dirk Lindsey. He's the president CEO of Coastal Growers LLC in Atmore, Alabama. They are a peanut shelling facility, state of the art. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. I'm Cam Marston. Dirk, prior to the break, the cost of fertilizer is escalating. There's all kinds of political uncertainty in Europe right now due to the aggressions of Vladimir Putin. Can you predict what this may mean for peanut harvests if the cost of fertilizer just skyrockets?
I really don't. It's hard to predict what's going to happen. Now, in peanuts, fertilizer is not that big of an issue because they don't fertilize peanuts as much as they do some of the other crops. But that is causing some issues in the industry because of the production cost. The input costs are going up on other crops. There's more people looking at peanuts, so we really aren't sure at this point what the supply is going to be like. But
let me make sure I understood you. Because of the cost of fertilizer, more people may be planting peanuts in the future because they don't need as much fertilizer. Is that what you said?
That's right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's but it's not just fertilizer. It's chemicals, it's diesel, it's everything that the farmer, every input that they've got is going up. And it's the same way in the shelling, the shelling side of it. Our packaging costs goes up. Our fuel costs go up. Everything that we're dealing with, and it's inflation that the entire every business in the United States is dealing with. But in agriculture and on the farm level, it seems to be worse because the commodity prices are going up some, but they're not going up at the same level as the input costs. So these farmers are having to look at different ways to do things to make their farms profitable. And so even though peanuts in the Southeast don't use a lot of fertilizer, the fertilizer issue is still affecting our industry. Yeah. And we're not exactly sure how it's going to affect it at this point because input cost is one side of it. And, they look at what they're going to plant. And basically peanuts compete with cotton, corn and soybeans in the Southeast, more cotton and corn than anything. So the acres kind of compete with that. The other part of it is those other commodities are the prices are rising. So it's hard to predict what's going to happen in the next 60 days on what's going to get planted.
Well, let's say these 197 farmers/owners that you have, they look out there and they say, I'm not sure I'm going to plant peanuts next year. I might plant cotton. Are they no longer an owner?
Well, in our model, they have to plant what they bought in for. So we've got our built-in. It's some of our other competitors that don't have that built-in model that are more affected than we are. But in our case, in order for the grower to get the dividends, because it is patronage based, they've got to plant the peanuts. And so we're probably in a better position as far as supply consistency. This business model it's not just us. There's other grower-owned LLCs in the industry as well, as we talked about earlier. But we're probably in a little bit better place with our business model as far as that goes. The question I was going to ask is, so these farmers are committed to this. Is there another? Let's say this farmer here on this piece of land has a neighbor who farms something else. And this neighbor is looking at this farmer who's an owner of the peanut thing saying, hey, I want something like this for my cotton plantation. I want something this for my corn. Are you looking at, is it possible to duplicate this model for another crop? It is. There's in almonds they have this, and there's some other commodities that they have this business model in. But I do think the more success that these type grown LLCs are in whatever commodity that they're in, the more people are going to look at that. And again, going back to the United States farmer or the farmer, they've got to look at different ways now to make sure that they're continuing to be profitable, and this is one way to do it.
So you have 197 owners. Do they ever meet in one room and say, hey, let's talk about what's working out there, and how do they share ideas, or do they consider each other a competitor? It would seem that they're not competitors.
They're not competitors. We have an annual meeting, and we just had it in March or a couple of weeks ago, and we got a majority of our farmers together. What we have is there's 9 buying points in our system that buy totally for coastal growers, and then we also have another shelling plant in Georgia that shells for us. We don't own it, but it's a toll sheller there that helps us process the peanuts, and that gives us geographic diversification, and also allows us to go into different markets that it may be harder to do because of freight. But the growers do work together as a company and try to help each other produce quality peanuts. Yeah,
I hear stories of farmers who could be competitors, but they see somebody in a pinch and they're going to jump up and try to help him out, and the stories of, I'm trying to remember where it was, but the tractor broke down, and later that afternoon, the word gets out and their tractor's rolling on the road to help them get their crops in.
Yeah, that's agriculture in general. Everybody helps each other out, and it is an amazing community, and we have that in our organization as well. But if someone's in need, farmers are going to be the first people to jump in there and help them.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story, and I'm glad to hear that it's true. It's not just something storybooks are made up, but it's true. You said earlier that God's hands were all over this. There have been a lot of people involved in making this happen. It was a good idea, but it took a lot of people getting involved to make it happen. Who were those people, and what did they do in order to make that happen?
United Bank out of Atmore was instrumental in helping us get the new market tax credits that this thing is based off of, and they were
define that for me.
The new market tax credit is a tax credit that is used in areas that need that. It's usually an area that's low income, or it needs help, and so
needs some stimulus.
Yeah, and so that's what they're set up to do, is to create jobs and to help the economy of certain areas.
So the new market tax credit is provided by whom? What government agency? Don't know.
Yeah, it's just the Treasury Department, I guess.
Just out there, yeah. So United Bank facilitated that for you.
They did, and there's a lot of banks involved in this and a lot of organizations involved in it, but United Bank was instrumental. Also, Hancock Whitney's the lead bank here, and they were instrumental in this. Alpha, Alabama Farmers Federation, and Alabama Farm Credit also was, they helped, they jumped in early on and helped fund part of this as well. So you get those entities right there, and I don't think this happens without any of the three of them. So and there's so many organizations and institutions that are involved in this. It's hard to name them all, but those four are definitely need to be named because they were instrumental in helping them.
They were the champions of this thing. And though the ribbon cutting was only, did you say in March, just recently?
Yeah.
How long has this conversation been going on?
Well, we broke ground in October of 20, but it's probably been going on 4 or 5 years. I mean, and the vision's been there for a long time, but the actual working to get this done is probably been about 4 years. And here we are, we're processing peanuts and we're sending them all over the world.
Was Atmore the site selection due to its central location of all these different growing locations?
There's a lot of reasons Atmore was a really good location, and a lot of it did have to do with there's not a shelling facility in Southwest Alabama. 25 years ago, there weren't that many peanuts grown around here, and so a lot of them were grown in southeast Alabama or in Georgia or Texas or in places like that in traditional peanut growing areas. And because of some of the farm bill changes and competition, and peanuts are started being grown in other places. And Southwest Alabama was one of the areas that a lot of peanuts were grown in. Really good, high quality peanuts are grown here, but there wasn't a shelling plant. So that's one of the reasons. But also you've got the Port of Mobile, you've got CSX rail that goes right next to the property. You've got I-10 and I-65 that are right there close for as far as distribution goes. So there was a lot of reasons why Atmore selected. Another part of it was the city of Atmore and Escambia County were very receptive and helped in every way they could to get us to come there. So there's a lot of reasons Atmore was selected.
5 years from now, you and I come back into the studio and I say, hey, catch me up on the last 5 years. What's going to change in the next 5 years?
Man, if I knew that, I'd be...
I'm putting you on the spot, man.
We have a vision. We have a long-term plan. We're looking at 3 to 5 years and 5 to 10 years, and we feel like growth is going to happen. I don't really know exactly what will happen, but we feel like there'll be other processes put in, maybe other plants put in place to do other things. Maybe, I'm not sure where we'll be or the size we'll be, but I do feel like that we will have grown and continue to process good quality peanuts and make our grower owners profitable.
There's somebody out there that's listening to this that says, hey, I want to meet this guy. I want a tour of the facility. I'm considering peanuts, something. How can someone find you?
Yeah, they can call me at 251-655-8003, or they can go to Coastal Growers.
Coastal Growers LLC. I've taken a card from this table. CoastalGrowersLLC.com is the website. And I think you could probably just get on Google and enter Coastal Growers Atmore, Alabama, and they'll find this thing.
That's correct.
I was on the website the other day, folks, and it is a good-looking website with some great videos that very clearly explain what it is they do. Dirk, thank you so much for your work. Welcome back to South Alabama.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it.
We're not going to lose you to South Africa, are we?
No, we're here. I mean, this is. I'm planning on this being it, and I got 10 or 12 more years, and then I plan on being right here in Southwest Alabama the whole time.
Sounds good. Dirk Lindsey is the president, CEO, Coastal Growers, Atmore, Alabama. We're lucky to have him, folks. The state is lucky to have him and the facility that he's a part of. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston, brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culver House College of Business, housed in the University of Alabama. I'll be back after this break with final comments. This is Cam Marston with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, houses on pilings can have termites eat their way up inside the piling and enter the house. The homeowner never knows about it, but your company offers protection. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Cam. Basically, what we have designed is a program, and what we do is we will actually drill to the center of the piling and put a product in the center that will stop the termites from coming up into the home.
Stucco exteriors as well?
Correct.
How can people find you, Cajun Mike?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. I love it that Dirk said that God had his hands all over this. And it's not because I'm an overtly spiritual guy or anything like that, but it reflects the fact that things went so well. In other words, there was a time and a place for this thing to happen, and it suddenly came together. Organizations which could have historically been rivals were working together to make it happen. I'm thinking about United Bank and Hancock Whitney, and that this idea that the peanut growers are owners of the facility and are taking some of the profits from the facility. It's just good stuff. It's just good stuff. I can't imagine that this idea is going to go away. In other words, there's got to be others out there who are saying, well, what is this? And Dirk mentioned pecan shelling facilities. Well, what if we can do this for our own wheat crop or corn crop or something like that? Now, I don't know a whole lot about the agricultural world, but it would seem to me that the success of this idea will make people say, well, what about our crop? Or what about our needs? And maybe across Southwest Alabama, this is already going on out there. I have no idea. But I just love this type of good story. And Dirk is a good guy. We're grateful. We're happy to have people like him back in the great state of Alabama, giving his energies and his thoughts and his ideas to the betterment of the state. Good stuff. So let's finish up the show now with the reminders of how to find it and the social media stuff. So we'll begin with how to find it. This show is born as a radio show, as you are listening right now on the radio know. However, it is converted into a podcast for those that subscribe to the podcast. And I'm happy to say our podcast subscription numbers continue to rise, particularly as we've poked into these new markets. If you want to find it, go to what'sworkingcam.com, what'sworkingcam.com. And there you can find the show as well as the links to the different podcast sites. Additionally, you can go to your favorite podcast app. Many people choose Apple Podcasts. The second most popular one for me is Spotify. Enter my name and you will find the 2 different podcasts that I offer. You can subscribe there. And if you do the Apple Podcast ones, I would love it if you would leave a review. Those reviews really matter. Some words, some stars, things of that nature. Find me on social media, Facebook, pin me, post me, paste me, linked me, all that kind of stuff. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Cam Marston. You might find it at Cam Marston and then the numeral 1, Cam Marston 1. And I'd love it if you'd reach out to me directly. Give me some feedback. Cam@cammarston.com. Show is produced by John Thompson with Ion Digital. Every time I say that, it means he spent a glorious day in there editing out my ands and my ums and you-knows, and it's a day that he can't spend on his boat, drinking beer in the beautiful blue waters on the north side of Horn Island. I've heard about these stories, have yet to be invited. Can't wait. One of these days it'll happen. So the show is produced by John Thompson with Ion Digital. If you have any filming, if you have any podcast or recording needs, I encourage you to reach out to John. Let me introduce you if you don't know him. And we'll have another show next week. Have a good week, everybody. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama.